everyone. Welcome back to the Music Chat, where we'll be talking about the Palm Sunday hymn, All Glory, Laud, and Honor. Barbara is here to pronounce all the difficult composer words and titles of words for me. So, we are going to go way back in ancient history once again.
Yeah.
We're going to find the words over here in the ancient times, and then we're going to come ahead a few centuries and we're going to find the tune, and then we're going to go another 150 years or so and we're going to have another guy who's going to translate and put new words and old tune together, and magic, all glory, laud, and honor. Did you follow that?
Yeah, well, we've been trying to follow it. It's been very challenging. Because it is challenging because the words are so very old and they did not really meet the music that we know until the 1800s. So, and they were kind of left alone for a long time.
So take us back to not the 1800s, but the 800s.
Yeah, 800s,
yes,
right.
Way back.
To Theodulf of Orleans, but you know, it's French, sort of. So we're talking about, 760, they think he was born, maybe 821.
I have 750.
Yeah, I have both.
Yeah.
I have both. So
750, 760
something
to
like
821 was this guy,
And he was a bishop and a poet, and Charlemagne really liked him. So he gave him the position of Bishop of Orleans. And I'm not pronouncing it the French way, I'm just saying Orleans. And that was all very well and good until Charlemagne died, and his nephew, Louis the Pious, took over. And Louis had a little insecurities, so he was jailing anybody and lopping off their heads, I guess, of anybody.
He was paranoid.
Yeah, he was paranoid of anybody that didn't agree with what he was trying to do.
Now, he was the son of Charlemagne.
It was the nephew.
Nephew? Okay.
I think it was the nephew.
At any rate, he inherited
That's
this,
correct.
But he was very paranoid because Charlemagne had been pretty popular, and he was jealous and petty,
and so he just was suspicious of anyone who didn't follow his ways. And so then we have Theodulf, who is this bishop in Orleans, and Theodulf came out and against all of the icons in the Catholic Church. Just didn't really like that. So he didn't say off with his head, fortunately, but he did put him. He incarcerated him.
Yeah, I think he also thought that he was involved in a rebellion against him.
That's right.
Part of this paranoia.
That's right. So, we don't like him, let's put him in jail. So they took him to Angers or wherever and put him in jail. And he actually wrote these words, the words that we know, kind of, sort of, the first version, the Latin version of these words while he was in jail. And then things are a little fuzzy after that for him, but around the 1600s there was a legend that came about, and they're not sure it's true. It's probably based in truth, but at that time, back when Theodulf was in the incarcerated in jail, it was the tradition on Palm Sunday for everybody to march to the church.
Led by
the Pious,
or whoever,
or Louis, or
the courts.
And the legend is that Theodulf saw them from his jail cell, and as they were going, he was saying these words, probably singing them to something, Well,
I think what I read too was he continued to sing in prison with the other prisoners. And so they were a choir.
That's right.
And so supposedly, you can imagine, and it's more of a tower. The prison was more of a tower.
That's right. So he was out the window.
Yeah. So kind of like think of Rapunzel. Yeah. Only it's this guy in prison.
Yeah. So he was doing these all glory, laud, and honor words in Latin out there.
Probably being sung.
Right. They were, as the uppity-ups were going to church to celebrate Palm Sunday. And the legend has it that whoever was the biggest uppity-up at the time, and it could have been Louis, I don't know, turned and said, "Oh, those are wonderful words. Take him out of jail. That's fabulous." So, and he said, "That song shall be sung every Palm Sunday from now on." So that's what Louis says. and it's legend, we don't know. And then the story goes that after he was let out of jail, he tried to make his way back to Orleans to take back his bishopdom thing, and he died on the way. Is the legend. Again, we don't know.
Well, what we do know though is he was a good guy.
Yeah, he was.
He was a poet, which is why Charlemagne was attracted to him.
Yeah.
And poets are thoughtful people and they're interested in education. He was a champion for building public schools in the 800s.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fascinating.
I know.
So this guy was a good guy. He was a pretty well known poet. He was pretty connected when Charlemagne was there.
That's correct.
Lewis couldn't really take that away from him. He already had a good reputation.
And a part of Lewis's issue with him could be because he wasn't popular. He felt threatened by that.
Right, and so something we're going to come back to is the fact that these are joyful words. These are it's about the spontaneous joy of the procession into Jerusalem. And
he wrote it absolutely specifically for Palm Sunday.
and we don't have that many hymns even today that are specifically so for that occasion. So he's a it's a joyful text. Even though he himself was in duress, which is an important component to a recurring theme for the life of this hymn.
Yeah, and so for our listeners, we have to understand that this was where the text originally came from, because we have another journey to go to.
Yeah, and the words are in Latin, so they're going to be translated later on. We'll get to that. So we'll leave Theodulf behind. We hope that the story is true.
Yeah.
It certainly could have been. That Lewis was so taken by it that he released him from jail. So we kind of hope we have our fingers crossed that was the way it actually went down.
Yeah.
and what we take from that too is we feel like I don't know if it was only on Palm Sunday or only on festival Sundays or just every Sunday, but this tradition of the medieval procession is probably why we still process today.
It could be.
On especially Palm Sunday, but on festival occasions. So it's been going on a while, the concept of that. So now we're going to, and I guess we should say too that the original poem was 78 verses, 39 couplets, so it was longer than, now we know it as a 5 or 6 verse hymn that's in most hymn books. And we should also say before we leave him that he definitely continued to write, study, read in prison, and have a voice even while he was in prison. So that very important idea there.
Absolutely, yeah.
So now we're going to go, centuries. Centuries are going to literally go by before we really come back to anything regarding all glory, law, and honor.
Anything that's related to this, because this, when you first look at it, has no relationship whatsoever. So,
but the tune comes along.
Yes.
Not the word. The words are still.
We have to
sitting.
think them still with Theodore.
So here comes the tune in the 1600s, and what happens in the 1600s is that plague.
That's right.
That's been the reason why we have gotten a lot of the richest hymns in our history. Some of them came from illness, the 30-Year War. These very dark moments in history gave us some of the most inspirational writings and hymns.
As it should be. I mean,
so
that's all they had.
Yeah. So tell us about. Like I said, you're here to pronounce our tune composer for
okay,
this.
so we have Melchior Teshner.
Yes.
And he is a Polish-born person.
1584.
Okay, who goes to Germany to study. He's a scholar, he's a cantor, he's a poet, he's all kinds of stuff. And studied in Frankfurt. I mean, he becomes a very German influential person.
And a Lutheran.
And a Lutheran, absolutely. That's very important in the journey of this hymn as well. So Teshner finds the words of Herberger.
Valerius Herberger.
Right, and again, these are not the words of all glory, laud, honor. These are just words that Herberger has
In
written.
fact, we have a lot of German-speaking friends, and so we'll have Pastor put the German title to Herberger wrote a hymn called "Farewell, I Gladly Bid Thee" is the English, but we'll have Pastor Jeff put up the German.
Okay, so
as
we have this hymn that Teshner finds, and he creates a melody for it, and that is where we first hear the all glory, laud, and honor melody. And Wendy, are you going to play the
I
new
can,
hymn?
yeah.
Okay.
This was the melody, which you're all familiar with, and the main change is the very first note. The length of the first note was longer,
And it doesn't have those neighboring tones.
but it's very close to the tune that we know today. And actually, Pastor Jeff, when he puts this up there, you'll notice that it's written. It looks old. It has a very old look.
Old notation.
It's not really shaped notes.
No.
They're diamond notes. And the thing that tells me how to play this is a clef sign down here in the very beginning that shows me that the first note, it matches the first note of the piece here. And that tells me that note is C. That's a clef that tells me where C is. So I'm going to play this just like they have written it. And so this would have been early notation from the 1600s. Hirschberger's music.
Hirschberger.
And underneath it, you'll see Herberger's text from, so this was from a Lutheran hymn book from 1614. It sounds like this. Repeat sign.
So those are that's Teshner's melody to Herberger's words.
And Herberger, as Barbara, she would sing the English translation of his words, because these are we think of All Glory, Laud, and Honor as a very joyful, exuberant song. And part of that's the first line, arising. It's an ascension, and we hear it today at a pretty brisk tempo, faster than that really, probably. So we think of this as a joyful occasion. Interestingly, this was from the time of the plague when he lost many friends, and so a lot of death going on. So what does he think about death, though? You think, well, here's this exuberant tune that's being matched up with these words about death, really. And so my take on it is they're pretty hopeful words, at least Herberger's idea of what would have been hopeful words regarding, leaving the troubles of the earth and moving into the kingdom of God.
Which is a common theme. And especially during these times, to give some people hope to, wake up every morning.
And so why not have the happier tune? So why did Teshner match? Teshner's the one that matched these together, and so maybe that's why. Maybe he thought it needed a uplifting text. So I thought it would be interesting. We all know the All Glory, Laud, and Honor words pretty well by now, but these are words you won't associate with this. But these were the first words to go with this tune.
Yeah, I hope I can see them.
go. Yeah. Thank you. And I wanted to say also that the harmonization that you're hearing that I played with Barbara is pretty plain. It's probably what was originally the harmonization. It doesn't have a lot of the moving tones that we associate in the inner lines now with it. It's just a pretty basic harmonization. Not bad, you know, it's okay, it's okay, and it's very reminiscent of the one we know. Minor melody change here and there, but pretty close to how it lands later on. And so so it continues with this set of words to this tune. Theodulf's words are still sitting in the monastery.
That's right.
Somewhere.
They have not emerged yet.
They have not emerged, but Bach, he's a Lutheran too, and he's not much later than this guy, so he has access to, he knows this guy's music.
Yes, and it's in the hymn book or whatever, so.
Yeah, and so he harmonizes it and uses it, you know, he writes some preludes to it, chorale preludes.
Yeah, and added it to the St. John's Passion.
One of the Passion, I don't know which one, but it's in there as a lot of, it seems like the Bach Passions are coming up a lot lately when we're talking about all this music. And so Bach takes it with still those words, the farewell words that Barbara sang.
It's a consolation hymn.
Now, I'm playing this out of a copy, it was in the New English Hymnal, which was much, much later, and probably in the 1980s, something like that. And still the All Glory words are written there, so don't let that confuse you. Just imagine that it would still be the older words. And but this is the important thing, is this is the harmonization that Bach gave us. Twice up there at the top, but like we are used to hearing it sung.
That's right.
So he has given it some chromatic passing tones and put some borrowed harmonies in there. Much more exciting to listen to.
Much more.
You know, much more interesting. Much more fun to sing. If you're singing it, you know how to read 4 parts. You'd much rather sing something that's moving and has interesting intervals and harmonies.
Yep.
Yeah, so, all right,
so we have the music.
We have the music, and we have the improved music that Bach gave us.
Right.
To the old farewell words.
And we're still in the 1600s at this point.
Right.
Okay? And then, along comes a couple centuries, a century later,
150
years later, comes our friend, our English friend. We have another Anglican, priest and whatever, John Mason Neale, a very English name, and he lived from 1818 to 1866. And Mr. Neale was a scholar, and he was in the clergy of the English Episcopal Church. He had a congregation, but he had very ill health. So what happened with him is that he was in this place, and he was taken with going to medieval hymns or to German, old German hymns, and he was a translator. He loved to seek out medieval hymns that were in Latin and to translate them into English, and he did that with German hymns as well. So guess what? He found Miss Theodulf's words and translated them into English. And that's where we get All Glory, Laud, and Honor and we go back to the Palm Sunday hymn. But he translates the words, and he's got to find some music to put it to.
Mm-hmm.
And he finds Teshner's words, his music, his music, and it puts the words that he has translated from the Latin, from Theodulf, to Teshner's melody. So we have finally the words married with the music.
Right, not so long ago in the large scheme of things.
In the large scheme
Yeah.
of things. And he puts it in the hymnal that we know. What is it? The hymnal of...
Hymns, Ancient and Modern.
Right.
Which, that's come up several times in our
Mhm.
hymn chats. It was a hymn book that was distributed pretty largely in
Mhm.
Europe, you know, in the mid-1800s, I guess. And, you know, so it would have had distribution.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And so he was able to find that, and I'm sure that when he heard it, he felt like his translation of the Latin worked very well with it.
And here again, it's a uplifting tune
Mhm.
that, and now we would say that these words really are even a better match in many ways.
Oh, I think
you
so.
know, I mean, it's a great match.
And I don't know whether it's because we just know it so well, but it matches perfectly.
you take that brisk tempo and you have that ascending line, and it's pretty joyful. The only thing is it does come back down the hill at the end, and that's sort of low. But other than that, I mean, and the way Bach wrote it, even gives it more. It gives it more forward momentum, more movement.
But it always goes back to the beginning of the refrain, so it
yeah,
doesn't end there.
exactly.
You know.
Right.
So I think it's a fascinating journey with
Yeah,
this
it is.
that we know so well, you know?
And so the takeaways are probably that both tune and text came from men who were in dire circumstances. You know, Theodulf was in prison. He writes these inspirational words for a happy occasion, this joyful Palm Sunday idea. And then, you know, the tune or the next text is also written in the same kind of circumstance. Herberger, who had lived in this time of plague and death and dying, you know, and so both sets of words were born out of a time when things were sort of serious. But they give us one of the most joyful hymns, you know, in our present day hymn books.
And again, I will say, I probably say this after every chat, but it is amazing to me that Theodulf's words from 820 or something are something that we still sing.
Yeah, well, what helps it is scriptural.
Right.
Although the part about children isn't in
It's
scripture.
from Matthew, I think.
Yeah,
Matthew
yeah.
21.
But it really tells the story of Palm Sunday, and so
Matthew 21 verses 1
I
through
mean
11.
the Bible is ancient,
Yeah.
and so
Well, that's very true.
you know, so it
But I
survives
think-
partly because of that.
Partly, but think about how they were able to find it again, you know?
Amazing.
That's amazing
Yeah.
to me. It's
Right.
amazing to me. So,
But you know what?
What a treasure.
Also is a takeaway is how important, and maybe we don't spend enough time talking about them, but our translators, the translators of these hymns, you know, hats off to somebody who goes back hundreds of years and digs through ancient texts, so it can't be in very good shape,
no,
you know, and figures them out and preserves them.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
and you know, think of the stuff that was probably never found and
Yeah.
and is lost.
And I also think that we need to emphasize the fact that so many of this, not just for us as Lutherans, but so many of these traditions came through the Lutheran Church. Because as you know, this is sung by all denominations, and many of the hymns that we talk about that started out in the Lutheran Church are sung by many denominations. But again, remember that one of the priorities in the Lutheran Church, in the early Lutheran Church, was that they have congregational singing. So by the time Bach was in the picture, you know, that was, he had to have something every Sunday. So,
And how often does Bach become the intersection?
Mhm.
You know, so here's this tune over here, and it gets to Bach, and here's a tune from this century, and it gets to Bach, and here's a tune from the 800s, and it gets to Bach. And so a lot of stuff from way back sort of intersects with Bach.
And I have to think about the fact that Mendelssohn really was so instrumental in finding a lot of Bach's music. And we have to thank him as well, because it's very possible, I don't know, but it's possible that we would not know as much of it as we do without him.
Sometimes what we have from the past is just accidents.
Yeah,
You
true.
know,
Yeah.
happy accidents. You know, that people that persevere and find a little something and they pass it on and somebody else gets a hold of it. And
It's pretty cool though.
It is. It really is. History's an amazing thing. So
it was fun with this one, especially trying just to get everything in order because it had really two very separate lives.
it does.
And it came together, which we're glad it does, because
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
And the order, every chat we do has this problem of trying to get the players straightened out.
Who's on first?
Yeah, exactly. That is exactly it.
It is fun though. It's very fun. And I'm so glad, because I can't imagine Palm Sunday without it. So
No, that's for sure. That is for sure.
yeah, so cool.
That's as sure as Silent Night on Christmas Eve.
It
you know?
is, yeah.
So anyway,
Good
it was
stuff.
a joy to talk about it,
Yeah.
and we've journeyed through Lent, and we're coming into Palm Sunday, coming up here this Sunday, and then we begin our week of Passion with our two online services on Thursday and Friday, with our Easter service then online on Sunday. So anyway, we hope you've enjoyed learning a little bit about this great hymn, and we will see you next time on the Music Chat.
Bye.